Hey, what's going on, everybody? I hope you're doing well. I'm hanging in there. Just another day down. And yeah, today my video is going to be called MK Ultra. What if we used it for good? MK Ultra. What if we used it for good? So instead of using it for bad, which apparently they've obviously been able to make such things as sleeper agents, make your everyday Joe Schmo turn into a psycho killer at the drop of a dime or one little word, code word makes them spaz out and stuff like that. They learned how to get into the psyche and get into the subconscious of a human being so deep that they could make them snap, right? So my whole thing is if they can do that, they can and if they can do that for a bad thing, if they can make a good guy a bad guy for a bad reason, then they could make a bad guy a good guy for a good reason. So we could do the inverse. We could flip it and do the opposite. So I'm sure that you've heard of such a program as MK Ultra, in which the government did various mind control studies on people, both willing and unwilling. They apparently concluded their studies with the realization that a typical human being can be persuaded, aka literally brainwashed, to do atrocious acts. They have been able to turn choir boys into mass murderers. This actually goes back to Egyptian practices where the goal of the high priest was to turn one ancient archetype into another one entirely. I'm pretty sure it was like the child into the hero, or something, or the son into the hero, or whatever. I one of them was Ra, by the way, and there were other ones like Set, or something like that, and Ra. And so I watched this guy, Professor Jiang, Professor Jiang explains on YouTube, and this guy just goes in and he shows that a lot of stuff is actually from ancient Egyptian mythology, and they take these same ideas and they just replace them with different words, and it's like based off the same like framework. So that's amazing, and that's crazy. He goes deep. He's a really smart dude. My main point in argument here is that we could just as easily be using these methods for good on a massive scale. So, if they can turn a hardworking citizen into a lazy, self serving, psychotic murderer for bad, then we can easily do the inverse. We should be able to do the inverse. The opposite. We can take repeat offenders, people who are like violent criminal offenders, right? And give them two options. Option number one, do their full sentence, okay, and then get out. Number two, become a subject to a psychological program. And if they pass the final test as a rehabilitated citizen, they are then re released and integrated back into society. And I know you're saying, I think you might have skipped a step because we're kind of rushing it to just let somebody go back out there right away. You're right. But that's why I have this. So they should be transferred from the jail or prison to a get well center or something like that for 6 to 24 months. That will serve as a test in order to see if they are truly fit to fully reacclimate to actual society. I have a strong feeling that this would work for a minimum of 80% and a maximum of 99.9% on people. Because if they can get into somebody's psyche and they can turn a good guy into a psycho killer, they can turn somebody who has lapse of judgments into somebody who has a conscience and won't hurt people anymore. I believe this. It's just, so the question is why? Why haven't they done this? Why aren't they trying this? Or are they and they're just not telling us? If I know this, then speaking of, if I know this, then the government knows this. Obviously, if I've thought of this, clearly somebody else has thought about this who's in a position of power. So then the big question arises, why don't we implement this process? It's because those who are truly in power actually desire chaos, division, violence, and evil. The darkness despises the light. Ephesians 6:12. For we wrestle not against flesh, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of darkness in high places. Even back then, those in power were evil. even today, this applies, maybe even more accurately than before. We could successfully rehabilitate 80 to 95% of these criminals by forcibly changing the neurochemistry of their brain over elongated periods of time, over months, over years, and then they won't have to do 20 years or 10 or 15 years. They can do a lot less, and they could actually not be a repeat criminal when they get out. So isn't that good for society? Um, I'd even take it a step further and say that therapists could flag these people, suggesting and referring them to this program of reprogramming, if you will. And if they refuse, then the therapist can simply let the local law enforcement know of the other person's violent thoughts and tendencies prior to their subsequent actions that would be sure to surface sooner or later. This would also help to pinpoint people who are about to go crazy, and you could stop them before. And you can't charge them with the crime that they didn't commit, but you could at least stop them if they're going crazy. You know what I mean? That's what I'm saying. But this could prevent a minimum of 10% of crime, and at this point, we will take all the change we can get. Every life matters. Even if it only saves one life per year, it would still be so worth it. For all we know, that one life could be the one person who comes up with the cure for cancer. So this goes far beyond mere statistics. Every life counts. Okay, this process that these three-letter agencies have already proved to work for evil can be used for good as well. So we can clearly do this and change somebody's mindset. This can and should be utilized. All we need is for people in power to simply get on board with ideas like this. If the majority of the people in power truly wanted more good in the world, it could be done. I argue it could be done. So don't be like, oh, we're doing the best we can all the time, every day, because we're not. Maybe we are sometimes. Maybe we feel like we are, or the people around us are. But I'm talking about people in power. Like, we could be doing so much good with the money that we have instead of giving it to other countries for some shake and grabs and whatever, and handshakes behind closed doors and all this stuff. We don't need that stuff. What we need is we need to build stuff here, like here in America. You know what I mean? And then we can broaden our horizons and help other nations and do stuff. But it should be America first. You know what I mean? But um, like I said, if the majority of the people in power truly wanted more good in the world, it could be done quite easily, might I add. This goes for various categories and issues that America currently faces as well. That's all I got for now. So until next time, stay safe, be blessed, and live lavishly. I'll see you guys in the next one. Have a good night, y'all. Peace.